after he assaulted me, I was pushing him away and trying to get away physically. And he immediately pulled back and then said, come on, man, I heard you liked me.
Joe Biden is going to be America's next president, and amidst the chaos of perhaps the most controversial US election ever, set against the backdrop of the global pandemic, you'd be forgiven for missing the story of Tara Reade, the former US Senate staffer who says that Joe Biden sexually assaulted her back in 1993. Tara joins me now. Hey, Tara, thank you so much for joining me. So I'm going to read you a sentence from the foreword to your new memoir, which is written by Rose McGowan. And she says, what would you do to stop your rapist from becoming one of the most powerful people on earth? Would you go to any length to speak up? Now that Biden's won, how does that make you feel?
Well, I have mixed feelings because, as you know, I'm a lifelong Democrat, and I left the party because I really feel there's a lot of hypocrisy with it, that it's not really representing the values that years ago it had. I feel like there's a lot of, in the international level, there's a lot of long regime wars. And there's definitely a rape culture that's been institutionalized. And this hypocrisy of holding the Me Too as like a mantle when actually, they're enabling and empowering predators. Yeah, the image that you're discussing now is this Grandpa Joe, Uncle Joe, kind of this paternalistic, older, frail even figure. Back then, he was at one of the heights of his power. He was one of the most powerful political people on the Hill. He was the chairman of the Judiciary Committee and in foreign relations. He was in his early 50s, and so he was physically very strong and not frail at all.
And the experience that you have described with Joe Biden, can you tell us what happened?
Well, I mean, many people have heard the Megyn Kelly interview, and that's a good interview to look at, as well as Australia's 60 Minutes, where I go into the details. But, it's a sexual harassment and assault. So it started out with him wanting me to serve drinks at an event because he liked my legs and he thought I was pretty.
This was back when you were in your 20s. It's the early 90s. You're working in Biden's state Senate office.
Correct. Mm-hmm. And I was very much a believer in him, in the Democratic Party. However, it was on the heels of Anita Hill, and that was sobering for many of us that believed, women should have, be able to speak about what happened to them. And she was treated very badly by Joe Biden. And so there was that, again, that cognitive dissonance happening. However, he was talking about trying to get forward this legislation to protect women. So again, it's like when you look at it, like many things are true at once. So I was in my 20s, very idealistic, coming in, wanting to do good work. And it was really shocking to be treated, differently, objectified, really. It was shattering because I was in a no-win situation. I said no and rejected someone who does not like rejection. And I knew in that moment, and I remember, my whole body shaking. I think I described that and how cold I felt. I think I went into a kind of shock. But what that was about was more that a fear. He was so powerful. And also that my career was over, essentially, because I had made a choice, and my choice was not to go down the path they were trying to force me down. And by taking that stand, I was marginalized and cast aside, so to speak.
Tara, can you tell me the words that he said to you during this encounter that you describe?
Well, at first, after he assaulted me, I was pushing him away and trying to get away physically. And he immediately pulled back and then said, come on, man, I heard you liked me. And then I was taken aback by that, and my brain starts working as one does, like, how did I get in this situation kind of thing. Like, I felt trapped, actually. And then he immediately got angry. I could see it in his eyes, and he has a pretty bad temper, but like his temper, he'll do this thing where he smiles when he's angry, and pointed his finger at me, and he said, "You're nothing to me. You're nothing."